The tale begins at the Devil's Palace. That's the name everybody uses for the headquarters where the Muram demonic alliance gathers together. A new arrival enters and observes a massive gathering already assembled there, which surprises him completely. There's this guy with a beard, and he's essentially explaining they'll accept anybody willing to join, regardless of their background or which organization they belong to, provided they possess genuine skill for combat techniques. He can't comprehend why anyone would simply reject an opportunity like this one. Meanwhile, his companion sort of makes jokes, expressing regret about his advanced age, because if he still possessed his abilities, he'd be completely eager to sign up himself. The bearded guy detects something unusual happening within the gathering and begins wondering whether someone just died recently. His companion simply dismissed his assumption, mentioning that the major confrontation at the Devil's Palace hasn't even begun yet. The bearded guy glances over and questions once more who this younger person is, the individual wearing completely formal clothing, almost appearing like he just arrived from a funeral parlor. Everyone's focus turns toward the person moving through the gathering. Bo-un-sol, the individual in everyone's attention, can't stop contemplating his grandfather and understands completely that this represents just the beginning for him. Un-sol reflects on his grandfather, the person who selected his name after discovering him abandoned in a snow-covered field. Un-sol begins reflecting backward, recalling when his grandpa taught him the skills of being an undertaker. That's the way he learned everything about the profession, simply by observing and studying from him. He recalls when he informed his grandfather about the corpse, mentioning it had to be someone who was incredibly skilled at some extremely quick sword technique. What gave him the clue was how muscular the left calf appeared, especially in the front section. People who practice that method always develop legs like that. The grandfather smiles, obviously satisfied that his grandson recognized something clever that most individuals would have overlooked. People begin praising him, describing him as some sort of elite undertaker, almost like he was delivered directly from heaven. Un-sol reflects on how difficult things used to be. Individuals constantly gave him trouble simply because of his occupation, making every single day feel like a struggle. But despite all that, having his grandfather present made situations better because he was constantly in Un-sol's corner no matter what happened. Everything transformed the day it all occurred. It was nighttime, and the grandfather noticed someone lingering around outside. He released a sigh and considered how good people never truly appear in your existence, and the individuals who do usually aren't the finest. Un-sol was sleeping when his grandpa entered and woke him up. He suggested the idea that they should compete to see who could pretend being deceased the most convincingly. He informed him that if he performed well this particular time, he'd finally purchase him those garments and the blade he'd been desiring for so long. His entire expression brightened, completely happy, when his grandpa instructed him to hold on until sunrise. He didn't anticipate that happening. Following that, the grandfather grabbed his blade and walked out of the dwelling. Outside, some unknown person was waiting around, clearly present for Un-sol's grandfather. When he observed the elderly man, he informed him he'd accomplished a great job concealing himself, somewhat like a sneaky rodent. He eventually revealed the truth about the grandfather, stating his actual name was Bo-gan-yang, the person recognized as the seven-branched demonic blade. He acknowledged it had been forever since he heard that particular name. The mysterious person started accusing him of abandoning his position as deputy master of the palace. He was trapped working a terrible job, spending his days burying corpses, simply attempting to survive. The grandfather clarified the situation for the mysterious person, informing him he didn't select this occupation simply to be unhappy. He was simply attempting to compensate for what he'd done incorrectly. He directly instructed the person to end his life somewhere distant, hoping nobody else would become involved in it. The mysterious individual simply laughed at him, refusing to take him seriously whatsoever. The mysterious person agrees with the grandfather's suggestion to travel somewhere distant, but before they depart, he makes it obvious the elderly man shouldn't even consider escaping. Un-sol is concealed nearby, releasing a silent breath when he believes he's safe. He begins trembling and feels like he simply can't endure it any longer. Even though he genuinely wants that official outfit and the blade his grandpa guaranteed him, the freezing temperature is simply too intense to bear. Un-sol emerges from where he was concealing himself and searches around. Understanding his grandfather isn't there, expecting him like normal after their competition. He assumes the police probably summoned his grandfather in once again. He's furious at those people who treat undertakers like they're not even human beings. Un-sol advances forward and abruptly sees something completely terrifying, so he runs without even hesitating. He entered and discovered his grandfather on the ground, blood flowing down from his eyes. Un-sol released a loud scream, reaching for his grandpa. He rushes over, completely bewildered, attempting to understand what just happened, but all he receives is an apology. His grandfather begins to mention that his time's nearly finished and attempts to tell him to stop working as a gravedigger, but suddenly he begins coughing up blood and can't even complete what he wants to express. Unsel genuinely wanted him to simply stay silent, but the person wouldn't abandon it and instructed Unsel to listen very carefully. He instructs him to abandon any ideas of revenge for good. Unsel, still weeping, simply rejects him. He's not going to let it go or excuse whoever harmed him like that. He mentions he'd prefer to simply die and accompany him, bringing up how he's constantly mentioning there's genuinely no distinction between existing here and being in hell. He sincerely believed being trapped in hell with him would be superior than having to remain here by himself. Before his grandfather died, he requested him to depart and begin anew somewhere distant. The elderly man informed him those years together represented everything. He releases his last breath and collapses to the ground. Unsel's eyes are crimson and swollen, tears pouring down as he attempts to comprehend everything. Time progresses, and eventually he's positioned in front of his grandfather's corpse, completely prepared for the burial. He moves his hand across his face, and it becomes clear requesting them not to seek payback was entirely about protecting him. He understands he can't simply follow along with it this particular time. He looks over his body, checking out his injuries, and then it hits him. Both of his arms are gone, sliced clean off. He did something you don't see every day. He cut straight down from the top. He realizes the attacker switched up their move halfway through. He was ready to go after his eyes next. Unsel checks out the weird sword moves and instantly clocks them as something straight out of the demonic sect. He knows right away it's that Tianchu yoga technique. He checks out his back next and spots 93 marks from hidden weapons. He figures out that the attacker acted alone and used some kind of gadget that can shoot out a ton of hidden weapons all at once. He finally spots something weird. His tongue and nails have this odd color showing up underneath. Unsel figures out that the weird color shows up when someone gets hit with a super dangerous poison, the kind that basically eats away at your flesh and blood. From everything he's picked up, he figures out what kind of person the killer is. Turns out the guy is straight up part of the demonic sect. He picked up the Tianchu yoga technique, carries around a top-tier hidden weapon, and fights with gear that messes people up bad like. It literally rots flesh and ruins blood. Unsel's pretty sure not many people out there fit that exact profile. He stares at his grandfather's body, eyes locked in with a look that says he's ready for whatever comes next. He locks in, deciding he's not stopping until he tracks down whoever did this, no matter how tough it gets. Unsel pulled up to the registration office at the Devil's Palace. He grabbed the pen, wrote down his name, Bo Unsel from the Ganyang clan, and got ready for whatever was coming next. The employees started clowning on him, trying to figure out what kind of random backwoods clan Ganyang even is. They joked that he probably freaked out after seeing those wild consent forms about giving up control over his own body. One of the guys straight up tells him to either put his finger on the scanner or just bounce. Unsel just bites his thumb until it starts bleeding, and the employees can't believe what they're seeing. Unsel remembers the day his grandfather passed away. Everything just kind of fell apart for him after that. He's out of options now. Revenge is the only thing on his mind. He presses his thumb, still bleeding, onto the registration paper, locking in his decision. He sees this competition as his shot to finally get even. Everyone knows the Murim world's been wild for ages, with the orthodox and unorthodox sects always going at it, each side trying to run the show. The story takes a quick look back at all the non-stop battles over who gets to call the shots. The Murim Alliance runs the show for the orthodox sects, who are all about doing what's right. The unorthodox sects all hang around the Devil's Palace, a place that's all about power and nothing else. For a long time, both sides just kept things steady, neither one really pulling ahead. The main sects wanted to get ahead of everyone else, so they ended up creating 18 martial masters. They were called the top good masters out there. The Devil's Palace knew they couldn't just sit back with this new threat showing up, so they started working on a plan to boost their own strength too. Their goal was to set up the 10 Demon Lords. The offer was simple: pick 10 geniuses, no matter where they came from, and train them in the martial arts from all 10 demonic sects. Word spread fast, and a bunch of young guys started making their way to the Devil's Palace, hoping to get in on it. Unsel stands in the middle of the crowd, and right away, he can tell a bunch of people here have some serious energy coming off them. He figures there's probably someone in the group who's linked to the guy who took out his grandfather. The killer's skills in martial arts are on a whole other level way beyond anything he can handle or even figure out. Unsel knows he can't just sit back if he wants payback on someone like that, so he decides he's got to turn himself into a legit martial arts boss. Right now, he doesn't have any crew or fighting skills to back him up, so getting into the 10 Demon Lords is basically his best shot at leveling up fast. Out of nowhere, the applicants turn and stare at someone, totally surprised. A tall dude with white hair that looks super thick and sharp red eyes just showed up out of nowhere. He steps up, raises his voice so everyone can hear, and lets them know he's the head instructor, Huck Ryun-Yang. Everyone at the event spots him and instantly knows he's the guy with the gold dagger and those wild, bloody eyes. Head instructor Hyuk Ryun Young kept talking, letting everyone know this place was all about finding the top talents from every demonic sect. If someone wanted a shot at becoming one of the 10 demon lords, they'd have to make it through every test thrown their way. He steps up and lets everyone know the first test is about to start. Time for the Devil's Palace fighters to size up how fit everyone really is. The test kicks off, and the examiners start checking out the applicants' muscles and bones with their hands. Some of the guys get confused, since they showed up ready for a competition or maybe even a fight, not whatever this is. Unsol sees that anyone who clears this test gets sent straight to the next spot. When Unsol's name gets called, an examiner walks up to him. Right after touching his arm, he freezes up, looking like everything just crashed down on him. In his head, he's already convinced this kid is done for. He can't believe Unsol's actually in the game, especially with how he looks. He can straight up tell the guy wants to take him out, but even with that heavy vibe, he knows he can't just let him through. Unsol just sits there, not even fazed by the outcome. He already knew all he really learned was how to handle dead bodies, nothing about fighting or working out. Passing a martial arts fitness test was never in the cards for him. He wasn't ready to give up yet. In his mind, this wasn't game over. Once the first test wrapped up, one guy who didn't make it started yelling, saying the whole thing was rigged and totally unfair. He started thinking about why they even bother with competitions when it feels like only the strongest or most athletic people even have a shot. The head instructor answers, saying that building up muscles and bones is the main thing when it comes to learning martial arts. He says that's why they set up this competition, to find skilled people from all over. He calls him out for whining when he can't even handle the easiest stuff. The instructor tells everyone to chill and not stress about anything. He lets everyone know that for the second test, he's going to handpick the guys who can really pick up martial arts, even if they aren't super strong physically. He jumps right in and says the second test is starting now. The head instructor looks at everyone who didn't pass the first test and just tells them straight up they have to fight each other until only one person is left standing. Nobody saw this coming. Everyone just stared, trying to figure out how this could actually be the test. Now they're being told to take each other out, even though they're supposed to be on the same team. One of the guys just grins to himself, realizing that if someone's getting taken out, this could actually work in his favor. He looks over at Unsol and this guy with bright red hair. He lifts his massive sword, totally set on making this guy his first target. He charges straight at him, yelling for him to just go down. Blood sprayed everywhere in an instant. Wee Won Chung, the attacker, landed his hit right on target. He takes out the red-haired guy without breaking a sweat. The rest of the group freezes, their eyes wide. Nobody expected that, and you could feel the tension spike in the air. Unsol checks out what's going on and starts thinking things through. He notices the killer just missed the ribs but nailed the heart straight on. Even though the guy doesn't look strong, he's got quick reflexes and moves fast, definitely sharper than he looks. Wee Won Chung stands up, flexing about what he just did. He looks around, daring anyone who thinks they're tough enough to step up and catch the same treatment. From far away, one of the officials watches Won Chung and thinks he moves fast but doesn't really think things through. The head instructor backs him up, saying everyone here is basically useless. The examiner keeps an eye on everything, realizing that flexing your strength like this just puts a target on your back. Still, he figures what just went down will definitely push everyone else to get moving. Everyone in the competition was freaking out, barely holding it together as things started to get wild. People suddenly start swinging at each other, totally freaking out as chaos breaks loose. The head instructor can tell these guys haven't really seen what death looks like up close. The trainees go all in, taking each other out without holding back. Things get brutal real quick as everyone's locked in, just focused on survival. The head instructor points out that, when people are staring down something that could actually end them, their senses basically shut down. But he and his assistant quickly realize not everyone's having the same experience. Not everyone in the crowd lost their heads. Unsol and another fighter kept it together and stayed sharp, even with all the chaos going down. Unsol looks around, taking in everything going on nearby. He looks at them and just thinks these guys have no clue what they're doing. They let the fear of dying totally run their lives. Unsol takes a second to think things through. He remembers the head instructor said to last until there's only one left standing, so he figures out pretty quick that it's all about staying alive, not taking anyone out. He's pretty sure he'll make it out as long as he keeps his head straight and doesn't freak out. He decides right then that he's not giving up, no matter what comes at him. Out of nowhere, one of the fighters walked up to him, probably thinking he looked weak and had just been laying low the whole time. Unsol looks around and spots some marks on the bodies nearby. They're super thin and look like they came from a really precise blade. He figures right away that someone with a slim sword did all this. The fighter makes up his mind to take this guy out on his own. He goes after him, pulling out some weird weapon no one saw coming. Unsol moves out of the way with ease and ends up smashing the box he had in his hands. The attacker starts messing with him, pointing at the box on his back and joking if he's some kind of traveling salesman. Unsol just acts like he doesn't even see him and grabs some cloth off the ground. He suddenly thinks back to his grandpa and that Christmas card he got. His eyes light up, dead serious, and you can just tell he's not backing down. He spots the guy holding some weird tools, and it definitely catches his eye. He looks at him with this sarcastic vibe, kind of roasting him about what he's actually supposed to do with that weak-looking sword. Right as he moves in to finish his attack, the other fighter, still totally cool under pressure, just shuts him down with one clean sword hit. Game over. The fighter lets Unsol know he's not looking for thanks. Honestly, having someone weak like Unsol around just throws off the other guys and makes fights smoother for him. He points out that even though he's got sharp instincts, it's pretty clear he's never actually trained in martial arts. He knows he could take out a guy like him whenever he wants. The head instructor watches from afar, zeroing in on the young guy's sword. Right away, he realizes it's the Sword of Annihilation. Yeah, the same legendary blade that belonged to the Black Soul, the dude everyone knew as the strongest swordsman out there. The assistant lets him know the guy's name is Neong Wangang. Word online is that Neong stumbled on the Black Soul's secret manual and soared way out in some hidden valley. He admits he just learned everything from a manual, so his moves are kind of rough and not really polished. Because of that, there are a bunch of gaps in his defense. The instructors kept talking, and the assistant pointed out that right now, Neong Wangang is the only one who's actually a disciple of the Black Soul. Even though he isn't the strongest guy around, he's still got a real shot at making it into the top 10 demon lords. Honestly, he could even end up winning this whole thing. The head instructor nods, pointing out that one of the gangs is still pretty new and definitely not ready to handle the Sword of Annihilation. But even so, out of everyone there, no one actually seems stronger than him. Unless something totally random goes down. After all the chaos and non-stop fighting, the arena was just a mess of bodies. In the end, only 2 people were still standing, Yongwon Gang and Yongwon Sol. On the training ground, one gang looked around and couldn't believe Unseal was the last one standing. He looks straight at him, kind of sizing him up, and throws out a challenge. If the guy manages to take him down, he'll get a shot at becoming one of the 10 demon lords too. Basically, he's daring him to go for it. Unsol checks him out, staying totally chill. He knows Wangong's easily the toughest guy in the room, no question about it. He already knows what his weak spot is. He's totally sure he's got this and doesn't even question if he'll win. He checked out how the guy fought by looking at the bodies he left behind. One of the guys suddenly stands up, smirking, clearly ready to see if this dude's actually got any game. He suddenly goes off on him, swinging hard and not holding back. Unsol moves quick, dodging all the hits like he's got it down. He still ends up with a few scratches, but nothing serious. One of the gang starts roasting him, calling out how he basically just dodges everything and somehow still hasn't gone down yet. The head instructor and his assistant are glued to the fight, both picking up on something. Unsol looks like he's getting wrecked out there, almost like he can't do anything about it. He keeps shifting his body right when an attack lands, just barely dodging some serious damage every time. The head instructor notices Unsol checking out the bodies and suddenly gets it. Unsol has already figured out how one of the gangs fights just by looking at them. He's honestly impressed by how sharp Unsol is. Unsol stands there, blood running down, but he doesn't even flinch. He just looks at the gang and basically lets them know their sword skills are trash, like all those wild swings did nothing but scratch him up a bit. He's caught off guard by what the other guy says. The instructors can't believe he's got the guts to try and push back like that. They know dodging is one thing, but actually going on the offensive is a whole different game. With how skinny he was, landing a solid hit wasn't going to be easy. His words really set one gang off. The guy in charge was originally just going to let him stick around for a bit, but after hearing that attitude, he changed his mind and figured he might as well end things right away. He yells out that he's about to make his wish come true, then gets ready to finish things off for good. Unsol spots the attack before it even happens. He gets that he's only got one shot at this. He thinks back to what he found when he was checking out the bodies. His final move always goes straight for the critical spots, either the heart or the head, never missing those areas. He realized that whenever he went all out in a fight, aiming to take someone down for real, his sword just naturally went for the upper body. When a gang charges at him, aiming right for his head, Unsol reacts fast. He drops low and slips out of the way, not letting them land a single hit. He aims his next move right at the guy's neck, going for the weak spot he just found. While the fight was still going, Unsol remembered what he knew about the Tian-2 vital point. It's one of those spots even top fighters can't really toughen up. He remembers hearing that if a kid goes all out and hits there, even a grown man could just black out on the spot. Unsol takes what he knows and goes for it, landing the final hit that seals the deal. He points his short sword right at Wangong's neck, not hesitating for a second. One dude from the gang is just standing there, blood running down his arm. He drops to the ground, and just like that, Unsol wins the duel. Unsol, totally drained and covered in blood, just stands there, not sure if everything's finally done. The instructors just stared, not believing what they were seeing, while the assistant pointed out that nobody saw this coming. The head instructor looked let down, since he was really hoping the Black Soul's sword art would be more impressive. Still, he raised his voice and let everyone know that Bo Unsol made it through the second test. The second he hears the news, Unsol just blanks out. His mind snaps back to an old memory, and before he knows it, he's out cold. He drifts into a dream and spots his grandfather waving him over. He takes off running, grinning as he heads straight for him, letting him know exactly where he's at. When he finally gets to his grandfather, the old man just says he can't see him at all. Out of nowhere, the dream flips and he's stuck in a nightmare. He's staring at his grandpa, but his face is all messed up. He can't even make out what he looks like at all. He snaps awake, heart pounding, totally freaked out. Unsal wakes up and realizes he's somewhere totally unfamiliar, with a bunch of other guys his age and some younger and older, all looking ready to throw down. Unsal wakes up on a ship, still groggy. He can tell he blacked out earlier because he lost way too much blood. He wakes up and realizes his worst injuries are patched up and the pain's totally gone. He figures someone big time at Top Dock from the Devil's Palace must have handled it. He scans the room, checking out the other survivors. Most of them look pretty built, and he spots a couple of familiar faces in the crowd. That's when it clicks. These must be the people who made it through the first test. He picks up on their dirty looks, but honestly, he kind of knew this was coming. The ship's door slid open, and everyone had to get off. One of the officials steps up and lets everyone know they've made it to the next test zone. It's called Hell Island. The candidates trail behind the official, heading straight for this island that just gives off creepy vibes. He gestures over to some caves, letting everyone know that's where they're crashing for the night. Then, he tells them to ditch their old clothes and weapons, and gear up with the fresh outfits and swords waiting for them. He lets them know they can just pick whatever cave fits their vibe. One of the survivors ended up finding a cave that actually turned out way better than he thought. It was surprisingly comfortable, not at all what he expected. While two candidates started throwing hands over who gets one of the caves, a few others stepped in to split them up before things got out of control. Unsal just stood back watching the whole thing go down. He could tell none of them had a clue about what really went down during the second test. To him, everyone here was just way too chill, like they weren't taking things seriously at all. He spots that a lot of them are rocking some seriously fancy clothes, and he starts thinking maybe they're all from some big-name clans. Unsal thinks back on everything and realizes the second test was basically set up to kick out anyone who couldn't survive. While all this is going on, the official handling the cave assignments walks up to him and starts calling him out for moving too slow. The official tells him to pick up the pace. Even though Unsal's intense stare got his attention earlier, the official honestly didn't think the guy would even make it this far. Now he's just curious to see what Unsal does next. Unsal spots a gloomy cave that honestly looks pretty rough, then just points at it and lets everyone know that's the one he's going with. The official looks him up and down, clearly unimpressed by what he's wearing, and acts like he thinks this rundown spot is all he deserves. There's zero respect in the way he reacts, just straight-up disgust. The official sees his decision and can't help but be impressed, thinking this guy's honestly a genius. He knows the cave entrance looks tiny and kind of gross, but once you get inside, there's actually plenty of space to train. Plus, since the opening's so narrow, it's pretty easy to keep random people out. Most folks stay away from this cave just because the entrance looks sketchy, but Unsal checked everything out and had it all figured out. Seeing that, the official tells him to get ready for what's coming next. Once everyone's rocking the new uniforms, the official starts laying out what's up next. He says Hell Island's got 10 spots where people can learn martial arts. Every building has its own style, so he can pick up the martial arts from any of the 10 different demonic sects. He points out that you can pick up every single one if you want, or just stick with the one that grabs your attention most. They can do whatever they want with their time, sleep in, mess around, pick up some martial arts moves, or just train solo whenever it works for them. Unsal can't believe it. After how intense the second test was, he's shocked they're just letting everyone chill and train now. It doesn't really add up for him. Not long after, the group started thinking about which martial art to pick up first. Almost everyone was leaning toward the Fire Rain Sword sect, since word was going around that it was the toughest one out there. Everyone bolts over. Unsal watches them, remembering what he heard before. These guys are supposed to be the strongest out of all the demonic sects. He thinks learning their martial arts could come in handy, but honestly, it's not really his thing. He's never trained in anything like that, so there's no reason for him to jump straight into the most hardcore stuff. Unsal stops for a second, really thinking about what matters to him right now. Instead of sticking to his usual routine, he switches it up and heads in a new direction. Unsal heads over toward one of the martial arts gyms, ready to check it out. Unsal pulls up to this run-down building that looks like it's barely holding together. He spots the Wandering Beast Pavilion and instantly knows its rep has tanked so hard, it's barely even on the list of the top 10 demonic sects anymore. The only reason it's still around is because, back in the day, it pumped out some of the toughest martial arts legends. He also remembers his grandpa talking about those things. Unsal chooses this spot to train, but as he's working out, he spots the ground ahead of him shifting around. Out of nowhere, a guy's head pops up right out of the ground. The guy steps up and says his name's Sawu. He runs the secret side of the Wandering Beast Pavilion, and he wants to know if this dude showed up trying to join the ranks of the 10 demon lords. Unsal stands right in front of him, keeping it respectful. He showed up ready to learn the martial arts from the Wandering Beast Pavilion, so Wu checked him out from head to toe. He just laughed, telling him to get lost before he ends up getting himself hurt. He made it clear he wasn't about to teach martial arts, especially not to someone who looked that weak. Unsol fires back at Master Sawu, totally sure of himself. He lets him know he heard that picking up the martial arts from the Wandering Beast Pavilion basically means you get skills to handle whatever life throws at you. Sawu couldn't help but laugh when he heard him talk, honestly surprised the guy even knew about martial arts that barely anyone remembers anymore. He let him know straight up, these moves are no joke. Even the top-tier talents struggle with it since you have to start by messing with your own body. Looking at the guy's shape, Sawu figured he wouldn't last a single day trying it. He tells him to head out now that he gets it. Unsol doesn't leave. Instead, he drops all the way down, forehead pressed to the floor. Wu noticed what Unsol was doing and couldn't help but look surprised. Unsol just kept going, showing respect since he agreed to learn from Wu. To Unsol, this was just what you do when someone's about to teach you something important. Sawu thinks he's being ridiculous, but in the end, he just gives up and says he'll show him how it's done. Sawu pops up from underground and lets him know straight up he's not doing this out of kindness. He's just here because the Devil's Palace told him to teach. He lets him know his name is Sawu, the guy in charge of the Wandering Beast Pavilion, and tells him to just call him Master Saw from now on. Unsol steps up, ready to say who he is, but the guy cuts him off fast, just calling him Trainee Number 1 like his real name doesn't even matter. Wu jumps right into training, wasting no time. Out of nowhere, everything around Unsol goes pitch black. He figures out he's totally blind now, can't see a thing. Sawu lets him know that his spot is sealed off for now, thanks to some secret tricks from the Wandering Night Pavilion. He says this part is needed if he wants to figure out the Wandering Beast path. It's a simple move that wakes up every sense and gives the user reflexes that are straight up animal level. He points out that their martial arts stand out since they totally shift based on who's training. That's why nailing the basics is actually pretty tough. Not many people even bother learning it anymore, so the place just got more run down over time. He lets him know that if he really gets the hang of it, he's about to get the instincts and senses of a wild animal. He flashes a sarcastic grin, pointing out that barely anyone even makes it this far before things go south. Sawu lets him know that his eyes will adjust to the darkness in about an hour. He plans to come back to him when the time's right. Unsol stands alone in the dark, surprised that his hearing and other senses aren't getting any better like he thought they would. He starts to notice that an hour drags on forever. He realized he had to get used to everything fast. He figures there are tons of fighters out there all trying to be one of the top 10 demon lords. Right now, if someone jumped him, he knows he wouldn't stand a chance. Right then, someone drops down quietly from above, ready to strike. Unsol reacts without even thinking, slipping out of the way and dropping down to the floor. Unsol figures out right then that since he can't see, staying steady is everything now. Later that night, Sawu made his way back to Unsol. In his head, he couldn't help but think that the kid was probably out there wandering around, totally clueless. After about an hour, Master Sawu came back and watched Unsol putting in work. He noticed right away that Unsol had his own style when it came to training. He figures most trainees just chill and wait for their senses to come back online after losing their sight. Unsol's moves went wild, like he was totally locked in on an enemy only he could see. He trained like he was actually fighting someone real. Unsol moved through the darkness without missing a step, like he'd done this 100 times before. Sawu realizes that's why he's getting used to everything so fast. He realizes Unsol's eyes are locked in now, like he's totally chill with the darkness. He steps up and tells him to see if he can dodge the sword. After grinding non-stop for 3 days straight, all while it poured outside. Unsol was still grinding through training with Sawu. Sawu catches him off guard, moving fast and slamming the hilt of his sword right into Unsol's stomach before he can even react. Dayu sits there, lost in thought, realizing it's already been 3 days. Unsol probably should be checking if the way he trains even makes sense, but he just goes with it and doesn't say a word. He pauses, holding back from throwing punches, and wonders why the guy doesn't even care about dodging or what the training is all about. Unsol thinks back, remembering how the whole point of the Wandering Night Pavilion's training is to figure things out solo. So, he figured there had to be something behind what the guy was doing. Sawu didn't see that coming. He had to admit the other guy had a point. He gets hyped up and pushes him to keep grinding. While training, Unsol suddenly levels up his awareness. He's pretty sure he can track where the sword's headed next. He gets it. There's no way he's avoiding what's coming next. He goes for the block instead. Unsol managed to block Sawu's hit, and Sawu honestly didn't see that coming. He started thinking about how Unsol even caught on to his move, since he didn't make a sound. He'd only been training for 3 days. Unsol drops to the ground, totally wiped out, realizing he didn't even manage to block that hit the right way. Sawu walks up to him and hands over a bamboo flask. Unsol takes it and nods, showing he's grateful. Unsol takes a drink, thinking it's just water, but right away he can tell it's something else. Suddenly, energy rushes through him, almost like his body's charging up and all the blood he lost is coming back. Sawu lets him know this is the top-tier spring spiritual water he's been holding on to forever, but honestly, Sawu doesn't mind using it on him at all. Sao's buzzing inside, barely able to sit still. He realized he finally found the genius he'd been hoping to meet his whole life. Unsol kept grinding, sticking with his training routine. Sao steps up and dares him to block another attack. Sao kept swinging his sword at Unsol, going hard with one attack after another. Unsol was barely keeping up, struggling to get out of the way each time. Out of nowhere, Sao showed up behind Unsol, clearly not happy about how Unsol was holding up on defense. Out of nowhere, Sao just freezes and doesn't go after anyone anymore. Unsol's out of breath trying to figure out what made him pause like that. Sao suddenly cracks up, laughing way louder than anyone expected. He looks hyped, like he just unlocked something he's been chasing forever. Right then, the seal on Unsol's eyes just snaps and suddenly he can see everything again. Sao calls Unsol out by his full name, telling him to drop the whole 10 Demon Lords thing and join up as a real disciple in his pavilion instead. He tells him that if he goes through with it, he'll help him become one of the top 10 martial arts bosses in the demonic sect in just 10 years. Unsol takes a second to think it over and starts to believe that Sao was probably being straight up about what he said. He still knows his grandfather's killer isn't just some random dude. This guy's got serious skills. He realizes just sticking to what the Wandering Beast Pavilion teaches isn't enough for him. Unsol straight up lets everyone know he's made up his mind. He's going for the Demon Lord title. Sao laughs at what he wants to do, not taking his dream seriously at all. He hears that if he's trying to master the skills from all 10 demonic sects, he might as well give up now. Even legends like the top heavenly demon emperor couldn't pull that off, so there's no way anyone else could. He tells him that every martial art works better for certain body types and energy levels. No matter how skilled someone is, he can't really master more than 2 or 3 martial arts. If he wants to get seriously strong, sticking to just one is the fastest way to level up. Thole backs off and admits he was pushing too hard. Seiwu starts thinking about whether there's any shot at getting Unsol to see things differently. But after a bit, he just goes with it and decides to show him another martial art instead. Unsol didn't see that coming. He only really knows the basics about the Wandering Beast Pavilion, so this caught him off guard. Sao suddenly catches Unsol off guard with a fast, clean move, but Unsol reacts just in time and blocks it himself. Sao lets him know that the martial arts from his pavilion aren't just about learning moves or memorizing techniques. Turns out, Unsol's been grinding the wild beast path from his pavilion this whole time. Unsol suddenly gets it. Every sword swing Sao threw at him was the real deal, not just some training session. These were actually what the wild beast path really looked like. Unsol wanted to show some gratitude to his master, but Sao wasn't having any of it. He just brushed it off, making it clear he was just following the Devil's Palace orders, nothing personal. Unsol really wanted him to know he was thankful. He brought up the time he got that elixir and made it clear he wouldn't forget what he did for him. Sao just tells him to drop it and move on. He breaks it down, saying that in the martial arts world of the Jianghu, you're better off letting go of past beef and favors. Moving on is just how things work there. After a few seconds where nobody said anything, Unsol lets him know he's about to dip. Sao stands back, just watching Unsol walk away. He can't help but be amazed, thinking about how someone that's skilled just showed up out of nowhere. He looks out, pretty sure Hell Island's about to get wrecked by some wild, bloody chaos. Unsol remembers how training on the Wandering Beast Path really leveled up his senses. Now, he can pick up on stuff most people would totally miss. He notices that always being on alert wears him out, even if he's just chilling. He knows there's no way he'll actually get any real rest if things keep going like this. He realizes he's got to get a handle on his senses and keep them in check, pushing them down whenever he can. Unsol locks in, dialing back his senses like he's trying to freeze a single drop of water in midair. After a few seconds, he opens his eyes, thinking he's got things under control for now. Unsol grabs a map and checks it out. He figures there's no way the Devil's Palace would let everyone stay on Hell Island forever just for training. He realizes their time there is almost up. If that's how things are, then he's got to go with it. Unsol sets his sights on the toughest sect out of all 10 demonic groups and makes his move to go there. The Fire Rainsword sect was started by Jukhua Wun, known as the Fire Rainsword Emperor. Around 700 years back, he went head-to-head with the top heavenly demon emperor. These two were serious rivals. When he pulled up to the Fire Rainsword sect, Unsol checks out their martial arts hall and realizes it looks way fancier than the Wandering Beast Pavilion, which is pretty basic in comparison. He walks up to the door, and some guy swings it open, clearly surprised to see anyone showing up this late. Thal figures out that he's actually the guy teaching martial arts in this sect. He stands up straight, gives a respectful bow, and lets everyone know he's here to pick up their martial arts skills. The instructor tells him to come along. He breaks it down for him, saying their sword skills cover way more than any other demonic arts, but they take forever to learn. He points out that the guys who showed up 2 weeks back already finished the beginner test and are now grinding through the next level. He wants to know why Unsol showed up late, and Unsol just says he's been grinding martial arts at the Wandering Beast Pavilion for like 2 weeks straight. The instructor wasn't expecting that and straight up asks if Unsol actually picked up the wandering beast path. Unsol just nods, letting him know it's true. The instructor knows this kid's got serious talent, but there's no way he picked up the wandering beast path that fast. He figures Sawu probably just got tired of dealing with him and sent him off early. At this point, he realizes there's nothing he can really do about it. After that, he lets the guy know his name's Jin Gak. He mentions he's running the beginner's test and tells him to just call him teacher. Jin Gak looked at Unseal, wondering if he was actually serious about picking up the Fire Rain sword art. He kind of hinted that maybe Unseal should just try a different test instead. Unsol appreciates that he cares, but he's set on mastering the skills from the Fire Rain sword set. Jin Gak nods and goes along with what he's asked. He pulls out this massive scroll and tells him it's basically the starter guide for the 13 forms of Fire Rain. He wants him to check it out and start training by himself. Unsol just stands there, clearly not sure what he's supposed to do with this thing. He looks kind of lost, like when someone hands you the controller but doesn't tell you which buttons to press. Jin Gak spun around, clearly not happy, and wanted to know if the guy seriously couldn't read a sword manual. Unsol owns up to it. He's never learned how to use a sword until he got here. Jin Gak just stopped dead in his tracks, totally stunned. He double checks with Unsol, wanting to be sure the guy really hasn't picked up any sword skills, ever. He remembers that all his records show he's only used Fire Rain up to now, and even during the second test he wasn't using any sword style in particular. He still can't wrap his head around the fact that he's struggling with the most basic move, just stepping right with a sword. He also thinks back to how sharp he was during the second test, catching every detail and reacting fast without missing a beat. He really knew what he was doing when he picked out his cave. Jin Gak starts thinking, if he's already gotten this far without knowing much, just imagine how good he could get with the right training. The dude's potential is honestly next level if someone actually shows him the ropes. Jin Gak switches things up. He figures if he can't spot the sword moves, he can still read, so he tells him to check out what's on the scroll. Unsol checks out the words, seeing stuff about letting his whole body chill out and just going with the flow, all as one. He goes back and runs through the part about relaxing his body again, making sure he really gets it. Jin Gak lets him know that he needs to chill out and move his body smoother when working with the sword, really paying attention to keeping his torso and waist loose. Unsol tries to follow the steps, twisting himself into this awkward pose. Jin Gak can't help but find it kind of wild that he's stuck explaining super basic stuff here, in a spot where they're supposed to pick out the top 10 demon lords. He tells him to stand up straight again, fixing his stance and pointing out that when his body's all stiff, his chest tightens up too. He says he's got to chill out and get his head right so every move just connects and feels smooth. Unsol reacts right away and gets himself steady. Jin Gak didn't expect to catch on so fast. The second he opened his mouth, his body just adjusted, like muscle memory kicked in right away. He looks at him, clearly pleased, letting him know his stance is solid now. Without wasting time, he says it's time to learn the 13 forms of Fire Rain, no hesitation, just straight into it. Jin Gak starts breaking down the moves for him, showing step by step how it's done. Unsol copies everything they do, nailing it fast and almost perfectly. Jin Gak figures out he was right. This kid's actually got real skills. Once training wraps up, he lets him know it's time to picture an enemy standing right there and run through all 13 Fire Rain moves. He finds out that this test decides if he's ready to level up to the intermediate hall, and basically, it's all about showing the sword intent in his basic moves. Unsol notices that the chance he's been waiting on just showed up way faster than he thought it would. He knows this is it. He's got to step up right now and show what he can really do. He shuts his eyes and locks in. He pictured an opponent he had to beat. He snaps his eyes open and goes straight into the first move from the 13 forms of Fire Rain, the cyclone that nobody can touch. Jin Gak keeps his eyes on him, curious about what he's going to do next. Unsol keeps going, rolling straight into the second move, then the third, not slowing down at all. Clouds drifted by, looking all misty and chill. Jin Gak just stares, totally blown away by what he's seeing. He starts questioning if he's actually looking at Fire Rain or if his eyes are just playing tricks on him. Then he remembers the floating misty clouds technique is supposed to be all about smooth, chill sword moves, kind of like how clouds drift or mist spreads out. Usually, people don't expect much from that move, but when Unsol pulls it off, it's way more intense and dangerous than anyone thinks. Jin Gak sees what's happening and can't help but think Unsol might actually be switching things up on purpose. Switching up the core moves of a sword style that's been handed down for ages is something only a real master can pull off. He notices right away that these new sword moves are way more aggressive, like Unsol's fighting someone who seriously wronged him. It's wild how the Fire Rain sword sect, usually known for being pretty traditional, ended up with such a savage fighting style. He can't help but wonder what kind of stuff Unsol's been through to end up like this. Unsol starts to notice something's off with him too. He realizes that just by moving his fingers, the sword starts following whatever path he wants. It makes him think maybe this whole wandering beast thing is behind it. As he kept using the fire rain moves, he noticed his senses from the wandering beast path kept getting sharper. He considers going all in and blending both styles together, but then he pauses. He knows that if he does, it'll end up as something totally new, not the 13 fire rain moves he actually needs for the test. He realizes he has to move fast and get back to how he first learned sword fighting. Out of nowhere, the picture of the enemy in his head sharpens up, like he can finally see who he's dealing with. He just stops dead when it hits him. That's the guy who took out his grandpa. Unsoul just got heated. He charges ahead, putting everything he's got into it, and drops the 7th technique. There are 13 types of fire rain, and this one's called the Heart of the Four Seas. He goes in hard, throwing everything he's got, but the other guy just slips out of the way like it's nothing. Unsoul noticed his imaginary opponent was quick on his feet. He moved quicker than anyone else he'd ever gone up against. He starts picturing his opponent coming at him, almost like he's playing out the fight in his head. He makes up his mind not to let the other guy get even a chance to make a move. He realizes he's got to throw down every technique he's got left all at once. He goes all in on his attack, using every bit of power he's got. He started landing heavy hits one after another, not holding back at all. Every move he tried got shut down. His opponent blocked everything and then just went straight for his hands, slicing them off. Unsoul pictures the attack in his head. He sees both his hands getting chopped off, and there's nothing he can do about it. No dodging, no blocking, just straight up helpless. Once the attack wraps up, Unsoul stands there, totally out of breath and wiped out. He used up every bit of energy he had, barely able to keep himself steady. Jin-gak keeps his eyes on him, realizing that, at the end of the day, the guy's gone for good, taken by his rival. He walks up to the guy and says he passed the test. The guy just stares back, totally confused. Jin-gak breaks down that the whole point of the test in the elementary hall is to see how well the trainee actually gets the sword, and if he can pull off all 13 fire rain moves when it really counts. He lets him know for sure that he's already shown it. He hands the sword back and lets him know his fire rain moves were on point, then asks if he wants to check out the intermediate hall. Unsoul starts thinking about his teacher, Jin-gak. He figures it probably got old for Jin-gak to teach a total beginner like him, especially since Unsoul didn't know the first thing about sword fighting. Still, Jin-gak never held back. He actually took the time to break everything down and walk Unsoul through it all one step at a time. Unsoul appreciates instructor Jin-gak for always having his back and putting in the time with him. He gives him a quick smile and lets him know he should keep grinding and push himself even more next time. He throws in a heads up, letting him know that his sword's got some serious killer vibes. He tells him to watch out so the sword doesn't end up running the show. Unsoul dips his head and heads out, and that's when Jin-gak really gets it. Unsoul was legit the whole time. Dude actually picked up the wandering beast path in just 2 weeks. He figures it's probably because he picks things up crazy fast. He got to the intermediate hall way quicker than he thought he would. At first, he wasn't sure he could even make it to the intermediate hall. But now, as Unsoul swings open the doors to the next hall, he knows for sure he's got this. Jin-gak's mind drifts to the instructor from the intermediate hall. Chun was watching Wangang, already guessing that Wangang probably wouldn't be cool with Unsoul right away. He's about to get totally locked in on this guy. Unsoul steps into the intermediate hall. Instructor Onagang spots him right away and calls him out, pointing out that he just made it through the beginner's hall. Onagang doesn't hold back, throwing shade about how, if it took the guy over 20 days to figure out those 30 Huawu forms, he's basically just wasting his time here. Unsoul lets everyone know he showed up late because he'd been stuck at the Nanya Pavilion for the first 2 weeks. One gang listens to what he says and realizes the guy's basically saying his time in the beginner's hall wasn't even slow. The gang leader just thinks, yeah, he's probably one of those dudes who dipped out when the beast path got tough. The gang leader tells him to take a seat, clearly not buying that he can actually hang with the rest of them. One gang starts showing off, breaking down how the thunderous fire rain sword is all about quick moves. He thinks if someone can handle a sword, they'll probably just mess themselves up trying. To him, this fighting style is tough to pull off in an actual fight, kind of like those 13 fire rain moves. It just doesn't work out for most people. Right now, they're just starting out, so it's all about picking up the basics. He points out that winning isn't even the goal yet. It's more about getting their sword moves down and leveling up their skills. Next up, he calls out Baek Han Seong, one of the trainees, telling him to step up and pick who he wants to face off with. Han Seong wonders if he can pick whoever he wants, and the instructor just nods, letting him know he's got the green light. Han Seong just points straight at Yun Sol, calling him out without any hesitation. One gang tried to push back, but Han Seong just pointed out he already said he could pick whoever he wanted. One of the gangs wasn't having it at all. They started calling Han Seong clueless, trying to figure out why he'd even think about testing his sword against someone who just wrapped up basic training. They told him to pick a different opponent instead. Unsol steps up and lets everyone know he's cool with it. He's ready to take this guy on, no problem. He says he picked up his sword skills from instructor Jin Gak and thinks he'll level up way quicker if he actually tries out his moves on real opponents. Everyone in the gang figured Unsol was only out here trying to save face, not because he was actually that good. He just nods in front of everyone, acting like it's important to know what you're good at. Deep down, he's hoping Unsol actually has what it takes to make it into the advanced hall. Han Seong spots the perfect chance to make a name for himself. Taking out this new guy could put him on the map and show everyone he's not someone to mess with. Both guys are just standing there, staring each other down. Han Seong let Yoon Sol know that just having guts isn't enough to make it in the Murim world. After that, he pointed to one of the gangs and told them to kick off the fight. Han Seong jumps right in, launching a heart attack as soon as the duel kicks off. Unsol moves quick and dodges, showing he's got real skills. Han Seong doesn't let up. He goes after his opponent hard, their swords smashing into each other with real force. As the fight goes down, Han Seong quickly notices Unsol can't really put up much of a fight. He catches himself smirking, realizing Unsol's actually just getting started and has no clue what he's doing. Han Seong can't help but crack up, totally clowning his clueless opponent. He lets everyone know he's about to unleash the real thunderous fire rain sword, ready to show what it's really all about. Han Seong goes all in, throwing out quick punches and kicks, but he's caught off guard when Unsol just slips past every move like it's nothing. From across the way, Instructor One Gang watches what's going down. He can tell right away that Byeokhan Seong isn't really good with the sword. He watches Unsol move, and it's not just that he's fast. Unsol is dodging every hit like he already knows what's coming. That alone makes him start to wonder if Unsol actually picked up the Wandering Beast Path. One gang just shrugs off the idea. They know the Wandering Beast Path might be the main move from the Wandering Beast Pavilion, but it's insanely tough. Only the top-tier masters ever get it down for real. Nobody, not even someone who's insanely smart, could pick this up in just 2 weeks. One of the gangs realizes that just watching Unsol dodge isn't enough to see what he's really got. They want this duel to be about sword skills, not just how quick he can move. Unsol just stands his ground and doesn't move out of the way anymore. He snaps back into action, ready to fire back. He pulled out all 13 fire rain moves, and the other trainees couldn't believe what they were seeing. Han Seong just watches his opponent pull out some rookie move and can't help but roll his eyes. He's pretty sure he could dodge this move in his sleep, but then he spots that Unsol's way of doing it isn't quite the same. Han Seong didn't see it coming at all. Unsol's hit got right through and connected before he could react. Han Seong gets heated, thinking Unsol's been holding back on purpose and showing off some tweaked moves just to mess with him. He figures Unsol is just trying to get noticed by the instructor, probably hoping to skip ahead to the advanced hall right away. Han Seong starts to pick up on what's happening and knows that if things keep going this way, he's going to end up looking dumb. He gets fired up and says he's heading straight for the advanced hall himself, then goes all out and shows off his clan's Asura sword style. The monster pulled out its move, going all in with the blood-shattering strike. Instructor Onegin watches and realizes this move from the Asura sword sect is seriously dangerous. He's honestly surprised at how Unsol just stands there, totally steady, like nothing can mess with him, even when stuff gets wild. That has him stopping for a second, actually wondering if he really did pick up the Wandering Beast Path. Han Seong keeps going hard, not letting up for a second. Everyone could hear him yelling that Unsol was over for good. He pulls out his own move, the protective Bloody Wind Moon, and locks in. Both swords slammed into each other, setting off a huge burst of energy that lit up the whole place. Everyone else in the room just stares, completely frozen. Even the instructor can't believe what just happened. Unsol thinks back to when he pulled off the 13th and last move from the Fire Rain forms, something that felt endless and way bigger than anything he'd tried before. Han Seong hits the ground hard, blood running from his mouth. The students just stared, frozen, trying to figure out if he was actually dead. Unsol slid his sword back into its sheath without breaking a sweat. Instructor Woongong checks Han Seong and sees that he's actually gone, taken out by a clean hit right where it counts. One gang wanted to know if Unsol had always rolled with the Wandering Night Pavilion, but Unsol just shut that down and said nah. The instructor looks at him, kind of surprised, and asks if he really managed to master the Wandering Beast Path in just 2 weeks. Unsol just shrugs and says he only picked up the basics. One of the guys from the gang just laughs off his answer, throwing out some sarcasm about the Wandering Night Pavilion teaching their people to lie now. Unsol was about to say something, but the instructor cut him off fast. The guy told him to skip the excuses and just clean up the mess right away. The students started talking quietly, all surprised that someone actually got killed during a training match. Most of them couldn't figure out why the person who did it wasn't facing any consequences. One of the gangs yells at everyone to keep it down, throwing out a reminder that this place isn't some normal training spot, it's Hell Island. If anyone's going to use lethal moves here, they better be ready to risk their own life. After making his point, he lets everyone know the test is starting up again. There are a bunch of other duels happening too. Once everything wraps up, one of the gangs rounds up the students who didn't make it. They tell them straight up they flunked the test and need to bounce, go find a new martial arts hall to train at. One guy tries to argue, saying it was only one game and asking for a rematch, but the other gang isn't having it. They shut it down fast. He lets them know that just being in shape got them through the first round, but picking up the fire rain sword is a whole different game. You need real talent and potential, and you've got to push yourself way past your limits, putting in serious work and taking some hits along the way. He lets them know they messed up because they just don't have what it takes, then sends them out. The students who didn't make it walk out, leaving Unsol standing alone in the hall. One gang wants to know why he's still hanging around, and Unsol wonders if it's time for him to dip too. He just found out from the instructor that he actually won the duel and passed. Now it was time for him to step up and take on the advanced test. Unsol thinks about leveling up, but honestly, he'd rather just chill where he is. One gang wanted to know why he made that choice, so Unsol just told them straight up. He only knows the 13 forms of fire rain sword moves and hasn't picked up anything new from the intermediate hall yet. Some gang out there figures Unsol picked up the Wandering Beast path and spilled the Asura Sword Sect's secret move, but Unsol keeps saying he didn't learn anything. One gang decides to show him the Thunderous Fire Rain Sword, a move that basically picks up where the 13 forms of fire rain left off. He gives him a hard look and basically shuts him down. He can't stand those little moves people pull just to get noticed, and lets him know straight up, if he catches him using any sword move that's not fire rain, he's taking his head off right there. One gang just grinned to himself, finally getting how Unsol managed to crush the Wandering Beast path in only 2 weeks. Unsol jumps straight into training, getting right to work on the Piercing Lightning move from the Thunderous Fire Rain Sword. After a bit, a gang pulls up on him, thinking he already knows the technique, and Unsol just stares, confused about what's going on. 4 days later, Unsol had the training down. Instructor Wongang looks back on the last 4 days he spent putting Unsol through some serious training. He tried out every test he could think of on him. He could tell right away that he didn't know any real sword moves. It was obvious he'd just started learning how to use a sword. Even with everyone else doubting, one gang actually noticed how locked in Unsol was. He trained non-stop like he had something serious riding on getting these martial arts moves down. One of the gangs tells Unsol that the Thunderous Fire Rain Sword move is all about spinning your body fast and chaining together moves. Every part of it is just swinging the sword around yourself, so it's not really useful in an actual fight. Even with all that going on, one gang picks up on how Unsol always tries out every move for real. He moved like he was actually out to take someone down. Unsol just pointed out that sword skills are made for that kind of thing anyway. The instructor explains that demonic martial arts run on pure killing intent, but if someone wants to level up, the Fire Rain Sword actually lets go of that whole killing vibe. One gang lets Unsol know that if he doesn't chill out and drop the whole killing vibe from his head, he's just going to end up making a martial art that backfires on him. Unsol notices that the instructor is repeating exactly what instructor Jingok already told him. He's not shy about it. This guy says straight up that he's always had that urge to take out anyone who tried to stop him, both before and now. If someone got in his way, they didn't last long. After that, he pretty much lost all respect for himself, and his skills just started falling off. One gang tells Unsol that chasing after deadly moves might look like the fast track to getting stronger, but it actually holds him back from really leveling up his sword skills. If he wants to keep growing, he needs to drop that urge to kill. Unsol thinks back to what his grandpa used to say. Guys who live by the sword usually have some rough stuff in their history with a lot of pain and tough moments behind them. That's why most people in Muram never bring up what happened before. Unsol wonders why the guy is even sharing all this with him, but one of the gang members just points out that Unsol already knows. He gets it because he's carried that same darkness inside him before. The gang wanted to know who Unsol was, so he told them his name, Bo Unsol. One of the gang's clocks that he's the same dude Jinghak talked about, the one who actually made it through the second test, and they let him know he's in some real trouble now. He admits his main problem is that he just doesn't have the basics down when it comes to martial arts. He knows his rivals have been throwing punches and kicks since they were kids. If he tries to level up his Fire Rain Sword skills in the advanced hall now, those guys are just going to pull even further ahead. He's got to get the basics of martial arts down fast so he can actually hold his own later. Unsol nods his head, kinda grateful, and deep down he knows he'd drop everything, even his own soul, just to get this shot. When Unsol steps into the advanced hall, everything just hits different. The vibe in the room isn't like anywhere he's been before. He notices the trainees are locked in with a whole new level of intensity. He realizes people don't glare at him like they used to, and it clicks. Taking down Byokan Seong changed everything. He remembers how everyone used to look down on him for cleaning up dead bodies, but now that he's taking people out with a sword, everyone acts like he's some kind of legend. It's wild how people hype up one thing and hate on the other, even though both jobs are about dealing with death. An older instructor spots him, says he's heard about him, and tells him to grab a seat since class is about to start. The instructor lets everyone know there's a new guy, so he's going to break down the main idea behind the Fire Rain Sword and go over the 7 teachings too. He breaks down how things work. Power has to be even across his whole body, not just in one spot. He's got to stand balanced, chest pulled in, back pushed out. Instead of putting everything into one hit, he spreads his energy out so he doesn't lose control. Unsol gets it now. These principles only make sense because he picked up some serious skills from the advanced martial arts in the intermediate hall. If he hadn't gone through that, none of this would have clicked for him. The instructor wraps up talking for the day and signals for Unseal to come with him. Unseal heads out behind the instructor, ending up in a chill, quiet garden away from everyone else. The instructor grabs a leafy branch and starts showing Unseal something wild. He says there's a point where someone doesn't even need a real sword to beat someone who's got one. At that level, you're so skilled that you can pull off sword moves without actually needing a sword in your hand. Out of nowhere, the instructor swung the branch right at Unseal. The instructor suddenly pauses and throws out a what-if scenario. He asks the guys to imagine getting jumped out of nowhere with no sword on hand. How would they handle it using only the moves they've learned from sword training? He points out that Unseal was still in the intermediate hall when the other trainees picked up the basics of the Shining Mysticism and started working on the first move of the Fire Rain Sword. Now they're all just sitting around breaking down how it's supposed to work. He lets him know straight up that if the question doesn't click, there's no point in teaching. He tells him to really think before answering. Unseal starts thinking about it, wondering what it would be like if he didn't have a sword in his hand. He just says he'd grab his opponent's sword and use that instead. Unseal darts ahead, reaching out fast to grab the branch before the instructor can react. The instructor thinks he rushed his decision. Unseal didn't even notice when the instructor showed up right behind him. 1 second he was alone, and the next the guy was just there like he'd teleported or something. It caught Unseal off guard, for real. Unseal rushes after the instructor, but the guy just slips past every move like it's nothing. Unseal's getting annoyed. He can't even keep up with the guy's moves. He knows if he doesn't show something impressive right now, he might not make the cut for the advanced hall. So, he locks in and gets serious, planning to push the wandering beast path as far as it'll go, hoping he can finally read where the instructor's heading. Unseal dials in, tuning everything else out. He goes in for another move, but the instructor powers up and blasts Unseal back before he can even reach the branch. Unseal hits the ground hard. Before Unseal can even stand up, the instructor steps in and just starts laughing, letting everyone know Unseal actually passed the test. Unseal just couldn't wrap his head around how he managed to win when he never even landed a hit. The instructor lets him know that training on the Shining Mysticism kicks off tomorrow and wants him to show up early before anyone else. Unseal's down for it and says he'll be there. Once Unseal dips out, the instructor just stands there, staring at the branch in his hand. He looks at the cub and realizes that no matter how small, it's still a wolf at heart. He grins, already thinking this guy's got some serious potential. Once class wrapped up for the day, Unseal just wanted to clear his head, so he started walking around Hell Island. He remembers what went down during the second test and knows things could pop off here any second. Out of nowhere, he picks up on a bunch of people close by. He starts counting and spots 5 guys stepping out from the trees. The one in front looks like the leader. He points out how this guy's been acting weird ever since he showed up from the intermediate hall, and now they're planning to show him what's up. One of them points out that Unseal kicked things off by being the first to kill, so he can't really blame anyone for what's coming next. Their leader starts flexing, saying all 5 of them are basically legends, calling themselves the 5 Peak Swords, and tells Unseal to get ready. The irate, Unseal realizes there's someone else around. The leader of the 5 Peak Swords yells at Unseal, not holding back at all. Out of nowhere, the leader just drops right there, and everyone around him freezes, totally stunned. Just then, Seo Jin-ha, this dude with bright red hair, showed up. He turns to Unseal, letting him know it's time for a real talk. Jin-ha showed up out of nowhere, catching the rest of the 5 Peak Swords off guard. They couldn't figure out what he was doing there. Without wasting time, Jin-ha told them to bounce, making it clear he had no interest in dealing with guys he didn't rate. His words really got under their skin, but instead of fighting back right then, they pulled back. Even as they left, everyone could tell they weren't done. They were already planning to come back and settle the score. Unseal looks at the guy and straight up thinks he's tough, but Jin-ha just sees them as total cowards. Jin-ha looks over at Unseal. He looks him straight in the eye and wants to know whose team he's really on. Earlier in the advanced training hall, the instructor let his students know they'd all picked up the first move of the Fire Rain Sword, but just copying it wasn't enough. They had to make it their own style if they wanted to really master it. Now, he was ready to check out what kind of fiery raindrops each of them had come up with. The instructor looks over at Unseal and tells him to go ahead and give his move a shot. Unseal moves up. He steps up and shows off how he does the move his own way. He showed off some seriously quick and dangerous sword moves, making it clear he wasn't messing around. The instructor notices how Unseal's moves are on point, everything sharp and locked in with some serious intensity behind it. He lets him head back to his spot, then reaches out to Seo Jinha. Jinha moves up, but instead of going for the first move from Fire Rain Sword, he pulls out a whole new move, and it looks like he came up with it just to shut down Unsol's style. Unsol suddenly gets it. This whole thing was aimed straight at him, like someone just put him on notice. Back in the middle of their face-off, he can't stop thinking about why Jinha even asked what side he's rolling with. Jinha called out Yuan Soil, telling him to quit pretending. But after watching how Yuan Sawyer reacted, his face, the way he talked, Jinha could tell the guy actually had no clue what was happening. It was obvious Yuan Sawyer wasn't faking anything. Jinha figures out that Unsol isn't the one he's searching for. He's let down since he thought things would get interesting, so he tells Unsol to quit being a pain from now on. He stares him down, letting him know that if he keeps pushing his buttons, he'll end up dead too. After that, he just walks out. Unsol starts putting the pieces together and realizes Jinha's probably a spy. He gets the sense there's way more happening behind the scenes than he first thought. He figures most people around him aren't actually trying to be one of the top 10 demon lords. He sees that getting to learn the skills from all 10 demonic sects is actually pretty sick. But honestly, the way the competition was run was just a mess. He finally puts it together. This wild chance is happening right now. As Unsol thinks it through, it hits him that this whole setup is actually a trap, probably meant to catch something. He starts thinking someone in the group might be a spy. He just shrugs it off. Spy or demon martial artist, either way, he knows it's someone he'll have to take down. The sun started going down, and he just knew things were about to kick off. Not far away, a mouse got stuck in a trap. The instructor stood in the training hall and let everyone know the training was officially over for the day. He knows a lot of people probably zoned out during all the law stuff, but he points out that even the top fighters, the ones who've seen it all, always make time to study the basics. Just because someone knows a martial art doesn't mean they can actually pull it off, and just because they can pull it off doesn't mean they really get it. He thinks breaking down these rules will help everyone get started for real in the Muram world. He wishes them good luck, and out of nowhere, a bell goes off. A voice suddenly boomed all around the place. The instructor let everyone know it was go time and told them to get moving to the Rocky Mountain right in the middle of the island. The trainees all showed up at the mountain, ready for whatever was coming. Head instructor Hyuk Ryun-young looked around and saw that everyone was there. Ryun-young steps up and lets everyone know it's time for the third test to get going. He tells them straight up they have to take each other out until just 10 people are left standing. He lets them know they can try to hide or run, but it's not going to work forever. Over time, they start running out of places they can actually hang out. Anyone who steps into a forbidden area gets hunted down by these killing demons. They don't let anyone slide. Unsol can sense how intense these demons are. Just being near them, he gets the vibe that they're absolute pros at fighting. One of the trainees, probably hyped up, wonders if it's cool to go after these deadly demons. Ryun-young couldn't help but laugh when he saw these guys all aiming so high. He was honestly impressed, and it showed on his face. He says they can totally go after them, and if they're strong enough, taking them out is fair game. He lays it all out. If someone takes down a killing demon, they instantly level up to join the top 10 demon lords. The trainees figured out that taking down just one demon was way tougher than beating all the other people in the trial. Ryun-young lets everyone know they can team up if they want, or just set traps for each other if that's their game. He yells out that if they really want something, they've got to be ready to go all in, no matter what. This is the way to actually become one of the top 10 demon lords. The second the test kicks off, the trainees just take off, heading every which way. Unsol takes off, knowing he's got to hustle if he wants to make it in time. He can tell a bunch of trainees have their eyes on him now. He knows if he doesn't dip right now, there's a good chance a whole squad will jump him, just like last time. Unsol knows he needs to get somewhere safe, and for him, the Wandering Beast Pavilion is where he feels locked in. That's his go-to spot when things get risky. He takes off, running flat out toward the building he knows so well. As he walks, he suddenly realizes the ground under his feet isn't the same as before. Out of nowhere, he gets the sense that someone's about to show up. Out of nowhere, this injured guy comes sprinting in, yelling for someone to help him out because he says someone's out to get him. He promises Unsol a reward if he steps in, and Unsol's first thought is that this could be some kind of setup. But then he notices the dude's injuries are legit. This isn't fake. Unsol could tell there were 3 people on his tail, and he started thinking they might actually be working together. He really just wants to stay out of it, but he knows this guy showing up is basically going to blow his cover. Right before things went south, Unsol grabbed the guy and dragged him into a secret spot underground. The 3 guys chasing him pull up to the spot, looking around like, no way he's already out of here. They're pretty sure he couldn't have dipped that fast. The leader made up his mind. He was going to take that guy out for sure. He told his crew to spread out and start looking, since there's no way the dude could have gotten far. When the coast was clear, Unsol and the young guy climbed out of the hole. The guy was clearly grateful, knowing he wouldn't have made it without Unsol's help. Unsol started thinking this spot wasn't just a random hiding place. It felt like Master Saw had set it up just for him. Unsol thinks back to his time stuck in the hole, realizing his wandering beast path senses were way sharper than normal. He could pick up on every step they took and every swing of their swords just by feeling the vibrations through the ground. He was seeing everything super clearly, almost like he was right there in the middle of it all. That's when Unsol figured out this was the wandering beast path, the one that works with vibrations, and it finally clicked. This is what Master Saw had been trying to show him all along. He looks over at the guy standing next to him. The guy steps up and says his name is Gumcho Ryong. He's rolling with the blood sect and he wants to know who this other dude is. Unsol just brushes him off and heads out, not even looking back. Cho Ryong isn't letting it slide though. He goes after him, trying to catch up. Cho Ryong dipped out into the woods the second the third test kicked off, but those guys just wouldn't let up. They trailed him every step of the way. He wants to team up with Unsol, thinking Unsol seems chill since he helped him hide earlier. Unsol doesn't say anything, but he just rolls with it, acting like that's a yes, and tags along, totally happy about it. Out of nowhere, loud fighting breaks out somewhere far off. Unsol lets his buddy know there's a fight happening up ahead, so they should probably look for another path. Cho Ryong can't help but be impressed by how Unsol can sense stuff like that, and he wants to learn how to do it too. Not far off, a single fighter finds himself outnumbered. He's ready to do whatever it takes to pay back his fallen teammates, even if it means making some wild sacrifices. Revenge keeps running through Unsol's head, and as he looks at that fighter, the same old hate starts building up inside him. Cho Ryong could tell something was up with Unseal, so he checked in on him. Out of nowhere, Unseal switched things up and decided they were jumping into the fight. Cho Ryong definitely didn't see that coming. It threw him off for sure. Thole steps up, getting closer to the fight. He blocks an attack that comes out of nowhere just in time. The assassin didn't expect Unsol to block the forbidden ultimate concealment move. He couldn't figure out how Unsol pulled it off and started thinking maybe Unsol was a pro assassin too. Unsol moves fast and takes out the assassin without breaking a sweat. Unsol thinks back to how he took down one of the assassins without breaking a sweat. He knows their hiding tricks could have been a real pain if he hadn't picked up the wandering beast path. At the same time, Cho Ryong totally freaks out when he sees blood. He just can't handle it. Unsol figures that if he backs up this fighter and takes out the assassins, he might let him know what it's really like to get payback. The assassins were done wasting time. One of them stepped up, letting the fighter know he'd finish him fast, kind of like a nod for making it this far as the last one standing. Right as he's about to land the hit, Unsol steps in and shuts it down, blocking the attack. The assassins freeze up, confused about who just showed up and whether they're about to get jumped by more enemies. They make up their minds, they're going to take out Unsol too. The fight suddenly got wild, and Unsol took one of them out. Unsol and the avenging fighter team up, going all out together against the assassins. They take them out one after another, not letting anyone get away. Blood goes flying all over the place. The avenging fighter steps up and takes out the last assassin, finishing things for good. He's standing there, blood all over him, just laughing like he's lost it. Everyone starts whispering that he finally got back at them, and then he just drops to the ground. Cho Ryong looks over at Unsol, wondering if everything's finally wrapped up. Right then, Cho Ryong walked up to Unsol. He could see Unsol had some real skills, but he wanted him to stay sharp and not get too comfortable. Out of nowhere, he pulls out a hidden dagger and goes straight for him. Thole shuts down the attack without even breaking a sweat. Cho Ryong just stands there, totally caught off guard. He can't figure out how the guy managed to block him like that. Unsol blames Cho Ryong for everything that's happened, pointing right at him like he's the reason things went sideways. He couldn't even get his question out to the other fighter, all thanks to that guy. When Cho Ryong realized who he was dealing with, he got seriously spooked. Unsol lets it be known that he was onto Cho Ryong the whole time. Back when they were laying low underground, he noticed Cho Ryong had some weapons stashed under his clothes. He points out it was pretty obvious since the guy's back was super stiff and his movements looked awkward. Unsol finally lets it out. He kept the guy around all this time just to see what he'd actually do. Curiosity had him locked in, wondering how things would play out. He figured watching how people try to lie could actually help him out later on. Cho Ryong just can't accept it. He's sure his acting was on point. He's got nothing left to lose, so he just chucks every hidden weapon he's got at Unsol. Unsol slips past Cho Ryong's move without breaking a sweat. Cho Ryong runs after him, but something just feels off. He starts to wonder if Unsol somehow knows what he's about to do next, like Unsol's already one step ahead. Unsol moves quick, slipping past every hidden weapon coming his way without breaking a sweat. After that, he just swings and lands one on Cho Ryong. Unsol lets him know that even the coolest hidden weapons don't matter if people find out about them. Cho Ryong sprints straight at Unsol, going all in for one last shot. Unsol steps in fast, shuts down the fight, and takes out Cho Ryong without wasting any time. Unsol stood there, blood all over him, thinking back to how tough that fight really was. He knew it could have gotten bad if he hadn't already known about those hidden weapons. He sees Cho Ryung go still, all the energy just fading out of him right in front of his eyes. He spots that look on the guy's face, the one he's seen so many times before, right when someone's about to go. It's that last-second fire for life showing up just like always. Unsol leaves the area, stepping past the bodies of the assassins and that fighter who was out for payback. He pauses for a second when he gets to the fighter's body, realizing something about him isn't like the rest. He passed away, still smiling. Unsol starts thinking about what it must feel like to actually get payback, and he wonders if he'll be able to smile for real once he finally gets his shot at revenge. Unsol grabs the dead assassin swords and keeps moving forward. Somewhere off in the shadows, one of the killing demons had his eyes on Unsol, just watching his every move. He started thinking that maybe Unsol was the one behind it. Everyone started talking when someone pointed out that Unsol took down those pro assassins just using the standard moves from the Fire Rain sword sect. He knows he's got skills for sure, but he also realizes there are plenty of others here who are just as good as him. If he doesn't get better, there's no way he's making it on Hell Island. The next day, Unseal was out and about when a bunch of trainees suddenly started coming after him. One guy had a metal whip and was swinging it from far back, trying to land hits without getting too close. Unsol slipped past one of the attacks, moving just in time. The weapon suddenly switched directions while flying and nailed him right in the back. Unsol sees that his enemies aren't letting up at all, and it hits him. If he doesn't figure out an escape, he's done for. At the same time, over at the instructor's camp, the head instructor looks over and wants to know what's going on. Someone lets him know that out of the 86 trainees, only 41 are still in it. Head instructor Hyuk Ryun-yong didn't expect this many people to still be hanging in there after 3 days. He figures the people still around must actually know what they're doing, so now's the real test. He signals his assistant to hand over the map. Somewhere else on the island, one of the trainees had just grabbed Unsol's sword and was about to take him out. Unsol's on the move again, dodging the people chasing after him. He realizes the weapons they're using just don't work for him out in the open. He starts thinking and comes up with a plan that actually makes sense for where he's at right now. While Hyuk Ryun-yong checks out the map, he figures it's time to lock down the combat zone. He gives the order to send the killing demon straight into the Fire Rain Sword Sect's territory. Unsol doesn't waste any time. He heads right over to the Fire Rain Sword Sect's place. His pursuers rush in right after him. The guys chasing him start thinking he might be hiding out somewhere nearby. One of them starts messing around, acting like he's got nowhere left to go. Their boss just stands there confident, thinking there's no way this dude's getting away no matter how quick he is. Out of nowhere, Unsol comes up from behind and jumps them. The leader just shakes his head, thinking the guy's being clueless and there's no way they're about to get played by something so basic. Unsol jumps right into the fight, dodging every weapon they throw at him like he's done this 1,000 times. The leader freezes, totally thrown off, trying to figure out how this guy can see right through their sword moves. Unsol slips through the mess and tight hallways, making it work for him. He throws himself into the fight, not holding back at all, taking on everyone chasing him. One of the guys chasing him notices that having so many people around messes with how strong their attacks are. Right as he's about to figure things out, Unsol just ends him. In his last seconds, the pursuer finally gets it. Unsol set the whole thing up and led him straight into this spot on purpose. Unsol realizes the guys he's up against have to pull back their attacks since there's barely any room to move. Because of that, their hits don't land as hard, and he can pretty much guess what they're about to do next. On top of that, he can tell they're not really that good anyway. He figures he could actually win if he takes them down one at a time. One of the guys chasing him suddenly yells and charges straight at him. Unsol moves fast and slips out of the way. Then someone else swings a whip at him, but it backfires. The whip bounces off the wall and smacks Unsol instead. He lost his balance and hit the ground. One of the guys chasing them spots a chance and quickly signals the rest to make a move and get out of there. Right as the guy's about to make his getaway, he just freezes. He suddenly couldn't move forward. Someone blocked his path. He just stares them down, totally unfazed, and wants to know what they're up to, basically calling them out and wondering if they're trying to dip. Sol stands back, just watching everything go down from afar. Once the fighter takes out the last of the guys chasing him, he looks over at Unsol, checking if he's the one calling the shots. The fighter nods, clearly impressed by Unsol's moves. He wants to know if that sword move Unsol pulled off earlier was actually the Fire Rain sword. The killer steps up, calling himself Wu Moon Chang, and wants to know what Unsol's name is. Earlier, Moon Xiang was yelling at his crew, basically calling them out and asking if they were straight up ditching him. One of the guys pipes up, kind of unsure, saying he honestly didn't think throwing hands right there was smart. Moon Chong loses his patience with how scared they all are, and wipes them out instantly, not even breaking a sweat. He looks around, annoyed, thinking this is exactly why he can't stand teaming up with guys who haven't even made it to the advanced hall yet. Back in the present, right when Unsol is about to say something, Moonchong just starts laughing. He clearly doesn't care at all about Unsol's name, since he figures Unsol isn't even going to make it out alive. Moonchong goes after Unsol hard, not holding back at all. Unsol moves fast to block, but the whip just snakes around his sword like it's nothing. The next second, his sword snaps clean in half, like it was never strong to begin with. Moonchong starts roasting him, saying he heard the advanced hall at the Fire Rain sword sect barely taught him anything, just one defensive move. Unsol didn't see that coming and starts thinking about how his opponent even knows about the shining mysticism. He started wondering if there was this whole info network out there that he had no clue about. Moonchong comes at him again, not letting up for a second. He got called out for zoning out right in the middle of the fight. Things started to heat up fast between them. Unsol notices his opponent just wrecking everything around him, not holding back at all. Going up against a guy like him in a tight spot just doesn't work out for anyone. Unsol steps back, putting some space between them. Moonchong looked let down. He lets Unsol know straight up that with those skills, Unsol doesn't even stand a chance against him. Moonchong goes all in, swinging his chain weapon like he's not holding back at all. Webb started closing in on Unsol from every angle, locking him down with nowhere to run. He throws out a sarcastic jab, basically asking if this is all the fight the guy's got left. He thought using the shining mysticism wouldn't help him out of this one. He just stands there frozen when he realizes Unsol is still up. Unsol pulled himself out of the trap Moonchong set with his weapon, finally getting loose. Moonchong just laughs it off and decides he's going to take him out real soon. Unsol takes a quick look around and figures out he can use that glowing mystic power to block the hits. But even with all that, he knows he's not strong enough to shut them down for good. Right then, he thinks back to everything he learned and just knows what he's got to do. His power could tear right through steel, no problem. Unsol powers up, locking in on his target, then suddenly drops a huge move that catches Moonchang off guard. He breaks through his guard, and the hit leaves him stunned. Unsol stands there, catching his breath after the fight. He thinks back to the moment he shut down Moonchong's attack, blasting out a huge wave of energy that pretty much flipped the whole fight. He let loose a move that was straight up lightning and thunder. Nothing else even came close. He pulls off a move that just wipes out his opponent, leaving no chance for a comeback. Unsol could tell this move was seriously strong, just like the instructor said. He starts coughing up blood, realizing this move is way above his level and he can't just use it whenever he wants. He's glad he pulled off the win, but he realizes the fight dragged on for way too long. With the restricted zones about to switch up, he knows he needs to get moving fast. Out of nowhere, he picks up on someone else being around. He looks around, trying to figure out how he ended up here. He just stops dead when he spots a demon right in front of him, ready to kill. Unsol tries to figure out why a killing demon just popped up, and if that means this place is off limits now, especially in the middle of his fight. He realizes he didn't land in this spot just because he bailed on a fight, and now he's stuck thinking about whether they'll actually let him walk out without any trouble. He notices the demon just standing there, not doing anything, so he figures it's safe to dip. Thole tries to get around him. Out of nowhere, the demon comes at him fast from behind and catches him off guard. Unsol pictures the blade coming for his neck if he can't move fast enough. Unsol barely slips out of the way just in time. It hits him that without that wild beast path he would have been done for. He swung his sword, but it was like his opponent just disappeared. He couldn't pick up on anything. Unsol got ready, knowing things were about to get real. He realizes he can't trust how chill his opponent looks. If he makes a move, the demon's probably going to jump him right away. Unsol thinks back to something Sawu once told him, that even if a predator is faster, catching its prey isn't easy. The reason is, the prey doesn't run in a straight line. It darts around, zigzagging everywhere. No matter what, apex predators always get their target. They go after anything that moves, so as soon as their target makes a move, they're already on it. Unsol starts thinking about how he's supposed to take on someone like that. His mind flashes back to the rest of the lesson, trying to remember anything that could help him out. The predator goes after its target depending on the right moment. So the way to win here is for him to switch things up and move in ways nobody can guess. Unsol decides to give this strategy a shot. He kicks things off by weaving back and forth in a zigzag. Nothing fancy, just sticking to a pattern you could see coming. He dodges the attacks just like he learned with the Wandering Beast path, moving quick before anyone can even react. At just the right second, he spots his chance and pulls off a move nobody saw coming, breaking through his opponent's guard. Unsol just freezes, not really sure what to do. The killing demon just stands there in front of him for a second. Unsol just sits there, convinced he missed his chance and there's no way out for him now. He didn't expect the demon to just stop, turn around, and dip out. Unsol stood there, confused, trying to figure out if he'd somehow crossed over into a spot he wasn't supposed to be. He looks back at the fight and notices he pretty much had to use everything just to avoid getting hit. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't break through his opponent's defense even once. He realizes now that this is what a real pro looks like, and he's been stuck in his own little bubble, not even close to seeing how big and wild the world actually is, or how strong people out there really are. He realizes the killing demon's martial arts are just way out of his league, like he can't even begin to figure out how strong they are. He knew his grandfather's killer was just as skilled as he was. He knows he's got to get even better if he wants to pull off his revenge. This level isn't cutting it. He's locked in and ready to push past his limits. Out of nowhere, someone else shows up right in front of him and drops his full name, Unsol from the Bow family. Some guy finally catches up to him, saying he's been searching for him for a bit. Word's gotten around that he picked up the wandering beast path. Unsol notices this guy acts like they already know each other just like everyone else lately. Guess word about him's already out there. The guy starts to say who he is but then just shrugs it off, basically making it clear he thinks there's no point telling his name to someone who's not going to make it. He suddenly goes for it, catching everyone off guard. Unsol dodged the attack without breaking a sweat. The attacker watches Unsol dodge, surprised at how he saw the move coming like it was nothing. Unsol's instincts are on point, reading the attack before it even happened, almost like he's got animal senses. He lets him know he's confident he'll end up as one of the top 10 demon lords later on. He knows he has to take him out right now, while the guy's still just a demon seed. Unsol suddenly picks up on something different. His opponent's whole vibe is off. The way the energy moves around him isn't how it was before. He thinks back and realizes not everyone on the island is trying to be one of the 10 demon lords. He starts to wonder if this guy is one of those people. He pushes all the random thoughts out of his head and locks in on the fight. While they were trading hits, Unsol notices something weird going on inside him. He could feel some weird energy dragging him in, like he was getting pulled straight toward the guy. Unsol thinks back to a moment with his grandpa. He broke down how one of the bodies they checked out was taken out by the Hyabi Feng clan's 5 cutting tiger blades. His grandfather figured it out because, even though there were 0 marks on the outside, every bone inside was crushed. That's basically the signature move of this clan. Their technique hits you with chi during every clash and wrecks you from the inside out. Right now, Unsol shouts out loud when he suddenly recognizes the move coming at him. It's the 5 cutting tiger blades from the Hyabi Feng clan. His opponent just froze, not expecting him to catch on to his moves that quick. Unsol starts thinking back to something his grandpa told him about this move. It's basically a wild absorption trick where it sucks in everything around it like a vortex. They use it during fights to grab control of the other person's weapon every time their blades clash. And Sol kept thinking back to what his grandpa taught him. The Hyabi Feng clan fights like tigers, always waiting for that split second when the enemy messes up with their sword, then going all in and taking over. The young Unsol wanted to know if his clan was really the top dog, so he went to his grandfather for the answer. His grandfather explained that their clan's special move, the absorption technique, isn't all that simple. Sure, it can trick people, but the catch is you have to get up close to your enemy to use it. Right now, Unsol figures it's time to put that absorption move to use. He moved to turn his opponent's sword, so it pointed right back at the guy. Feng Ok from the Hyabi Feng clan steps up, making it clear he's not messing around anymore. He's about to go all in against him. He promises, on his clan's name, that he's going to wipe out this demon for good. Feng Ok suddenly goes in, launching his attack. Unsol suddenly sticks his sword straight into the ground, catching Feng Ok way off guard. He definitely wasn't expecting that move at all. Unsol plants his sword in the ground and uses it to launch himself, landing a sharp kick that throws Feng Ok off balance. He notices everything's going his way, and it hits him that his plan is actually working. Feng Ok gets heated and calls Unsol out for playing dirty. Unsol thought his move landed, but it barely did anything. Honestly, that checked out since his opponent's been grinding for years. Now he's figured out how to beat him. Unsol thinks back to something his master taught him. Real speed isn't about going first, it's about holding back and then moving just a split second faster than the other guy when it matters most. Unsol makes up his mind to use the energy absorption move on his opponent, hoping it'll help him speed up. Feng Ok goes in for another attack, but Unsol just lets the force pull him in without fighting back. Instead, he just rolls with it. He used the boost from his move to swing his sword even faster. Right at the last second, he switches up where he's aiming. He connects with a solid hit on Feng Ok. Feng Ok's eyes go wide. He starts thinking maybe Unsol just flipped the whole energy absorption move to work for him. He thinks this is wild because his move is strong enough to yank a rock from pretty far away, and even top-tier swordsmen usually can't pull off something this tricky. He doesn't buy that Unseal could pull something like that off, so he just comes at him again, using the exact same move. Unsol just doesn't see the point, since the more he absorbs, the stronger he gets. His sword speeds up every time. Feng Ok couldn't hold back anymore. He looked seriously annoyed, thinking there's no way Unseal can keep this up forever. Out of nowhere, Unsol picks up that his opponent stopped using the energy absorption move. Feng Ok lets him know he doesn't even have to bother using that to take down a guy like him. Fung-ak charges straight ahead, not holding back at all. Unsol really believes this is the chance he's been waiting for. Unsol gets ready and pulls off the first move with his Fire Rain sword. He called it the Shining Mysticism. He fires back with a strong move, turning the whole fight around. He jumps on the chance as soon as his opponent drops his guard. He goes in and takes Fung-ak down for good. Fung-ak dropped to his knees, totally caught off guard, and tried to process if what he just saw was actually that Shining Mysticism technique. Unsol just nodded, letting him know he was right. He knew it was risky. Unsol figured the only way to flip his defensive, flashy move into a real attack was to pull every other hit from his opponent straight at himself on purpose. Fung-ak just couldn't believe what he'd seen. He never thought anyone would pull off that move like that. He looked over at Unsol, kind of thrown off, and wondered if Unsol was really just about to dip. Unsol lets him know he's not involved in whatever payback is going down. Fung-ak couldn't help but get curious, thinking it was wild to come across someone like Unsol in the middle of all this demonic chaos. Unsol made it clear he was hoping they'd never cross paths again. He just heads out. Fung-ak drops to the ground, beat up and barely hanging on. Out of nowhere, someone else shows up behind him. Fung-ak just looks at the guy, wondering if this is it, if this dude's here to finish him off. A masked demon known for taking people out looked at Fung-ak and pointed out how useful he'd been, even though Fung-ak was from the Orthodox sects. The demon basically thought it was a waste that someone like him had to go out like this. Fung-ak finally gets it. They'd been on to him about being a spy the whole time. The demon just lets him know that he's been sleeping on how tough the Devil's Palace really is. He says his goodbyes, then takes him out. Somewhere else on the island, things were happening too. One of the trainees was sprinting as fast as he could, just trying to stay alive. Seo Jin-ha just starts yanking out all these weapons stuck in her body one after another, like it's just another day. She gets up, breathing hard, with a few scrapes showing she's been through it. A squad shows up in front of her, and the guy leading them basically lets her know she just got dealt a bad hand. He laughs at her, basically saying there's no way she can get out now after getting hit with that brutal poison. He makes it clear she's pretty much finished unless she somehow has the cure. Jin-ha can't believe her luck's this bad. She never expected to run into a crew this organized, rolling with hidden weapons and poisons. It hits her that going solo only gets her so far. Some stuff's just out of her league. Jin-ha stands there, sword in her left hand, and the other team spots it right away. They look at her, wondering if she's really about to take them on like that. The leader points out that, no matter how skilled she is, switching from her right hand to her left with a sword isn't just something you can pull off out of nowhere. He basically lets her know she should just give up. They both team up and start going after her. Jin-ha held her own against them, moving way better than anyone expected. Still, she took a hit to her arm and got hurt. She suddenly feels a sharp sting and knows another poison needle got her. She's got about 15 minutes to find an antidote or she's done for. She's cornered, hurt, and for a second giving up actually crosses her mind. Out of nowhere, Jin-ha catches a scream. It snaps him right back to the chaos. Out of nowhere, someone jumps in and takes out her attackers one after another. The guys are freaking out, yelling and trying to figure out who's coming for them. Right when things are about to go down, Unsol steps in. He jumps in just in time and pulls Seo Jin-ha out of the ambush. Unsol moves quick, taking down every attacker one after another. By the end, the whole squad is on the ground, not moving. Unsol is just standing there, right in the middle of all the chaos. Jin-ha steps back slowly, keeping some space between them. She tries to let him know she's not there to cause any trouble. She checks one of the attackers and comes across a small vial. Right away, she gets that it's the antidote she needs. With this in her hands, she figures taking on the rest of the crew at that messed up blood fortress is about to get a whole lot easier. Unseal started to walk away, but Jin-ha called out and stopped her again, wanting to know what she was after. She lets him know she got poisoned and only has about 10 minutes before it takes over her whole body. Unsal just shuts her down, saying she's got it wrong, and lays it out that he showed up with plans to take out everyone, even her. He mentions he's only letting her walk because, honestly, he doesn't see any point in doing it himself. Jin-ha comes clean and says straight up that if he dips, she's done for. At the end of the day, she knows he just sees her as another rival. She's running out of options, so she throws out a deal. If he hands over the antidote, she'll team up with him. Unsal wonders what would even make her do something like that. Jin-ha points out there's just 20 people left now, and he notices that besides him and his crew, everyone else has already teamed up. She thinks he's tough, but there's no way he can take on everyone by himself. If they team up, she can hook him up with the inside info on how those guys fight. She promised herself that if he ever came through and saved her, she'd always have his back no matter what. Unsol thinks about her offer for a second. From what he's noticed, she carries herself with a lot of pride and likes doing things her own way, but doesn't really come off as someone who'd lie or stab him in the back. He wants to know what the deal really is, so she says they should team up until it's just the two of them left standing. They both lock it in, promising not to stab each other in the back. He paused for a second, thinking it through. Unsol tossed the antidote over to her, and she nodded at him, grateful. Out of nowhere, Unsol catches this weird noise and starts thinking maybe there's a new off-limit spot nearby. He lets Jinha know they should bounce, but she just shrugs and says she doesn't see any reason why they can't be here. Unsol tells her to focus, pointing out that most of the island is already off-limits, and now there's another spot they can't go. This probably means the other contestants are about to show up here too. Other groups of trainees started showing up, closing in around them from all sides. Unsol clocks what's happening and knows there's no way out now. Unsol spots one of the new guys and can't help but zero in on him. He can tell this guy isn't like everyone else. One of the trainees throws out the idea that everyone should just team up and take out Unseal and Jinha first. Someone else spots them, Bo Unsol, the guy who's all about that wandering beast path, and Seo Jinha, who's seriously skilled with a sword and has been checking out what the other trainees are up to. The other group's leader figures he's finally cracked what's up with Unsol and Seo Jinha. He'd always wondered why those two never teamed up before, but now he's pretty sure they're working together. Unsol thinks back to that vial of antidote powder she picked up earlier. She lets Unsol know she's about to drop the poison from the Hellish Blood Fortress, thinking this might actually give them a shot. Jinha chucked the powder up, and the other team instantly freaked out, thinking it was some wild poison from the Hellish Blood Fortress. Unsol and Jinha saw their chance and dipped. One of the guys on the other team figures out the powder isn't actually poison, they've just been played. Their leader wastes no time and tells everyone to go after them. Jinha knows the powder just makes a heavy smoke, perfect for messing with what people see. Jinha looks around and realizes the open space isn't really helping them out. He figures they'd do better if they moved over to the rocks where a bunch of small caves are hiding out. Unsol wondered if she was on the same page as him, and she was. She thought they should find a cave to throw down in. Unsol nodded, already knowing a spot. He takes her over to this cave that's got a tight entrance and a tunnel that just keeps going. Jinha can't believe he actually pulled this off. It hits him that he just figured out the wandering beast path, and honestly, it still doesn't feel real. She starts thinking about who he really is. They took off, racing straight for the rocky spot without slowing down. When they pull up, Jinha spots this weird fog hanging around, something he definitely didn't see earlier. Unsol thinks she's onto something. He can tell there's definitely something off. Out of nowhere, a killing demon steps out from the fog. Jinha freezes, suddenly getting that he's actually one of the killing demons. This place is off limits, but Unsol just chills and notices the demons aren't doing anything wild, they're just hanging back, watching how things play out. He realizes the instructors picked this spot as a no-go zone on purpose, all because that's exactly where the group was headed. Jinha looked around, not sure what their next move should be. Unsol just told him straight if they stayed on their side and didn't cross over, the demons would leave them alone. Unsol thinks that if a fight has to break out, this spot isn't actually that bad for it. Standing with their backs against the restricted zone would trap them, just like trying to fight in a cave where you've got nowhere to go. Jinha nods, realizing there's really no way out, so he starts getting ready to throw down. Right then, the crew that had been after them pulled up. Their leader showed up with a smug look, basically making fun of them and wondering if they were finished trying to escape. Both teams lined up, staring each other down. Behind them, the killing demons just watched, staying out of it for now. One of the trainees lets everyone know that Unsol and Jinha keep making things harder for the group. He doesn't bother waiting around and tells everyone to go after them right now.
Lately, I've had a strong addiction to watching manhwa and manga recap videos. Every single day, I find myself binging one after another, losing hours and days doing absolutely nothing productive. And honestly, it's getting out of hand. So, maybe we can make these viral videos too. I mean, look at the views, the growth, the community these creators are building. It looks simple, right? But that's a trap. You go down this endless rabbit hole, spending money, losing sleep, hiring editors and writers from Fiverr and Upwork, and still feel like you've been robbed. Because don't forget how emotional the YouTube algorithm can be with making videos go viral. It's unpredictable, especially when the market's saturated, competition's relentless, and somehow other creators are dropping 10-hour videos daily while you're stuck trying to finish one. That's when I realized something had to change. So, I built the solution, the Webtoon Narrative Suite, a complete one-click system that handles everything from cropping, script narration, text-to-speech, image processing, and full video generation in one smooth process. Save money, reduce hours of work, and have a tool that only gives you straight results. Click on the link down below and experience it for yourself. And if you want even more tools to supercharge your YouTube recap journey, visit my Ko-Fi and Patreon pages where I drop weekly new tools designed to keep you ahead as AI continues to steal our jobs. So tap in now before you get left behind.